let's see. This is from CBS News. New Secret Service report details growing incel terrorism threat. Got it? Okay. Go away. Okay. The federal government on Tuesday released a study on the growing terrorism threat from men who call themselves anti-feminists or involuntary celibates. You guys ready for this? And draw motivation for violence from their inability to develop relationships with women. Since 2014, attacks inspired by the incel movement and spanning the US and Canada have left dozens dead. So, dozens dead. What does that mean? Okay. Clearly the first, by the way, for those of you who think that I've never addressed any of this stuff before, please go look at my archive from 2014. You'll see that I've written probably 3 different posts about Elliot Rodger, which is what everybody is going to start throwing rocks about. Oh my gosh, this is where it all began. No, it was actually way before that. And you want to know where the true force loneliness guys came from? You want to know what really kind of built these guys up? I don't even think that, maybe there was the term incel was still a thing back in 2014, but I'll tell you this, as far as the forums of commiseration, there was a forum called PUA Hate. That's what it was. You want to know where Elliot Rodgers spent a lot of his time? It was in PUA Hate, which eventually got, of course, banned, and then they just revamped it and rebuilt it as Slut Hate after that. And I don't know if it's still around anymore either. But then that's really where the kid came from. Now, most of the people who are talking about this kind of stuff have no earthly clue about any of this. I've been involved in this for long enough to know what the hell I'm talking about because I was writing essays about this at the time. So in fact, I even remember the title. There's a title that of one of my essays. It's called The Severing. You won't find it in any of my books because it's kind of specific to the times. But I wrote it about the whole Elliot Rodger thing. In fact, maybe I'll call that up and read that to you guys because that was from back in 2014. Now, what I think is going on here, and this is, I'll give you my actually, I'll read this to you and then I'll give you my take on it. I think maybe that's probably the better way to do it, so I don't sound like I'm got ADHD. There we go. Oh, you can't see me in that. There we go. Okay. So since 2014, left dozens dead. Early intervention and behavioral threat assessments could be the difference between life and death for women targeted by growing ideology. Growing ideology, really, imagine that. God damn it. There. By the growing ideology. According to the 26-page report, the report concluded that while there is no one profile of an individual who plans or executes an attack of targeted violence, investigators must consider potential targets when seeking to thwart attacks. As suspects routinely explore multiple targets during the planning process before making their final selection. Okay, so let me halt right there really quickly. First off, the quote-unquote incelosphere is really not, I would say it's only ancillary to the red pill. Just like the black pill is ancillary to the red pill. Just like MGTOW, MRAs, TradCons, everybody wants some. Everybody wants a little bit of this juice, right? And as I said before, when I was showing you the video, that was the introduction video here. I'm not doing that so you'll get despondent and nihilistic and want to off yourself or off somebody else and some sort of, pity party desperation play. It's just so you have education on this stuff. Now, the people who are going to be mentally imbalanced, we're going to be mentally imbalanced before they found the incelosphere or any other sphere for that matter. So yeah, are there always going to be bad actors? Sure there are. But we're also looking at a quote unquote organization of guys or a forum of men who we want to, I think, really aggrandize or really blow up that much more, especially in a year where we just had an election in the United States that was based on one premise. Women got it bad and we need to get the ladies to the polls. We got to get them out there. Tim Pool is going to talk about this later on when I get to his video where he's talking about what is it, 68% of single women voted Democrat. That also translates to some other really damning statistics too. However, it's indicative of the fact that you have let's just say special interests that would love nothing more than to feed fear, and sell security. So this report is the selling security aspect of that. It's tilling the fields. It's, let's say, predisposing people to thinking that this is some sort of endemic national threat to poor women. Now, I'm going to sort of try to set this up a little bit for you here. Do you guys remember when, some of you are old enough to remember this, do you guys remember that in the early, it was right after 9/11, I think, where there was like terrorist threat levels? There was like the yellow, the orange, the red. We used to have to go through Homeland Security just said that we're at orange level. Something must be going on. I don't understand. Right? Or, oh my gosh, so we have credible intelligence that something's going to happen, right? We have to make sure that you take your shoes off before you get on go through the metal detector at the airports, right? Because there might be a guy who's trying to combine like two little mini bottles of vodka with some sort of, like, you put them together and it makes C4 or something, right? Why don't we have those? Why don't we have those for other things? Why on earth, if there's credible threats, if they really thought that doesn't the Secret Service actually, don't they protect like politicians? Isn't that what their job is? Or what's the purpose of the Secret Service? I would presume that the FBI is the one that should be doing this, not the Secret Service, maybe NSA, but this specifically says the Secret Service. I'm like, what the hell? Don't they guard the president? The White House has fallen. But why do we not have the threat levels? And if so, and they're really worried about this, then why is there not like some sort of like yellow, orange, red degree to which we should be? How worried should we be, federal government? How worried should we be about the growing incel threat? I have seen this stuff before. That's why I'm making light of this, because I've seen this happen before. Now, I saw it 2016, 2018, maybe not 2020, because we were focused on like other things during that election year. But now we want to make sure that the little ladies feel like we're doing something for you guys. This is your federal government at work. And we got to let you know that there's these losers out there who feel like kind of jilted because they're not getting laid and they haven't earned it. And these are the guys you are invisible to you in the first place. And we got to make sure that you guys know that there's these guys out there and their eyes might be a little too close in their heads. And they might not look like the kind of guys that you would want to get with. And don't worry, the Secret Service is on the job, ladies. So when I'm looking at this, I kind of got to take it with a little bit of grain of salt, because I got it. Why now? Why now? Haven't they been following? It's 2014. Haven't they been following these guys? It took them, 6-8 years to release this? It's a growing threat. Since 2014, I would hope that there would have been some other kind of like summation of this, but within, the first 4 years at least, if not the 8, 10, 12. What? So let me put this up here. I'll keep going here. This is interesting. The U.S. Secret Service National Threat Assessment Center took a deep dive into a series of red flags predating a shooting at a yoga studio in Tallahassee, Florida. I remember that, to determine how early intervention could have saved lives in the future. The NTAC routinely publishes research based on an assessment of the current threat environment. I would love, Myron, if you are watching this right now, Myron Gaines, if you're going to do one of your Fed streams, I would love to see this as a topic. In case of 40-year-old gunman Scott Paul Burley, there were countless warning signs. Countless. Okay. The man who opened fire inside hot yoga Tallahassee, killing 2 women and injuring 4 more before committing suicide, had previously been fired from multiple teaching jobs, barred from bars and apartment buildings, and authored a 70,000-word revenge fantasy about a boy-turned serial killer, according to the report. During his teen years, the attacker was accused of stalking his classmates, and he wrote stories centered around violent themes, said Steve Driscoll, lead research specialist at NTAC, in a briefing with reporters on Thursday. One One of those stories was 81 pages long and involved a protagonist murdering several girls before committing suicide. I would like to know, of the 70,000 word revenge fantasy, how much does that really consider? How much does that like play there? And is that indicative of a mindset of all of these guys who might actually try to repeat the same thing? The female characters in the story that were killed represented the attacker's actual classmates from his high school. Oh, my Lord. But he slightly changed the names in his writing. Okay, that was the Scott Bierl. Got it. Okay, he was arrested 3 times for incidents of groping women in public. His roommates called him Ted Bundy, though social media users often referred to him as a 1930s German guy. His parents reported sleeping with their door locked and removing him from his niece's birthday party after he touched young girls. On the day of the shooting, Bierl uploaded a self-written song entitled F 'em All, describing his frustration with personal failures, to a public music sharing website before departing for the yoga studio. He left behind a note reading, in part, "If I can't find one decent female to live with, I will find my indecent females to die with." According to the U.S. Secret Service analysis, now again, Secret Service, Bierl was motivated to carry out violence by his inability to develop or maintain relationships with women. Well, that I'm not sure how much that. How are they coming to that conclusion if only part of that is actually about his 70,000? Again, I'm not trying to excuse the guy. I'm just saying maybe the dude was just freaking nuts before he even came into all this. So let's start with that. That same year, a handful of incidents linked to quote unquote incel terrorism, a shooting at an Arizona mall targeting couples, a machete attack at a Toronto massage parlor, and a 23-year-old Virginia man who blew his hand off while tinkering with a bomb that federal authorities believe was meant to target a cheerleading performance. In the case of 2014 Isla Vista, can you just guys say like Santa Barbara, UC Santa Barbara, because that's really it was. 22-year-old Elliot Rogers killed 6 people and injured 14. Of those 6 people, by the way, 4 were male. That I know. In a shooting, stabbing, and vehicle ramming spree near the campus of University of California at Santa Barbara. Got it. Okay. 3 women were shot outside of a sorority house before executing his deadly attack. Rogers bemoaned not being able to find a girlfriend on social media, documenting his hatred of women, interracial couples, and planned retribution. Okay, then we get on to 2018, Alec Manassian, which you guys probably already know about. We can keep going on and on and on. Let's see, moving down here. But I want to get to the bottom here. While the Secret Service might be known for its protection of presidents of past and present, the agency has long studied and implemented behavioral threat assessment programs designed to identify potentially dangerous or violent situations that do not meet criminal thresholds. Those meet pretty criminal thresholds, particularly the guy that was the hot yoga killer guy, because he certainly has a criminal record. Tuesday's report intended to identify early warning signs of misogynistic extremists with the goal of early intervention. Traditionally, law enforcement and other public safety officials focus on crimes. Dr. Lena Althari, director of NTAC, said, and so if there's a direct threat or a criminal statute violated, they often feel that they can't do anything. But what we know from the research is that we know communities doing this successfully is that if you have trained personnel in their threat assessment, identifying the warning signs and knowing what the proper resources are available, that's when you have successful stories. Okay. Behavioral threat assessment programs can be developed in any environment. Okay, so now the rest of this is them just basically justifying the actual work. So my question is this: do violent video games create mass murderers? We already know the answer to that. Mike Sartain, if you're watching, you already know that as well. The answer is no. We've been doing those for quite some time. Does heavy metal music, does Judas Priest motivate guys to go out there, or Marilyn Manson, God forbid, motivate guys to go out and commit, let's say, acts of atrocity? No, they don't. Does pornography inspire men to go out and commit EPAR? No, it doesn't. If anything, it probably prevents that. So the idea that the quote unquote incelosphere in any way motivates guys who weren't already motivated and weren't crazy to begin with to go out there and actually to actually enact this stuff. It's like saying, well, what was it? Timothy McVeigh was part of some sort of network of guys who were like really wanted to go out. He was inspired to do it. No, he's already inspired to do it because he guys was nuts, or Ted Kaczynski, or Jeffrey Dahmer, or whatever. I mean, you can make those comparisons. You can pretty much attach crazy to damn near anything. But why now? Why is there no yellow, red, orange rating system? How afraid should we be? And by the way, this isn't just in the United States. It's also in the UK. It's in Canada right now. And so a lot of these guys are looking at this and they're going, oh my God, they're getting this information and they're interpreting it wrong. And so suddenly they're all misogynists right now. And honestly, you're going to find, well, let's say, who are the most notorious guys in that sphere that have committed acts of atrocity? Because I can't say the word, right? Well, you got Elliot Rodger. Everybody looks back to that. Then you got Alec Manassian. Okay, those two. And those are the guys that have actually admitted to it. I think Elliot Rodger's pretty much cut and dried. We know what that's all about. Alec Manassian. So let's see. Elliot Rodgers, 2014. Alec Manassian, 2018. When was the hot yoga thing? Was that 2018 or 2019? I think it was 2019. I don't think it was in 2020. Maybe it was 2020. Who knows? Yeah, pretty much. Thank you for that, ML. Do they want to introduce a mandatory gelding law? They don't need to. That's called pornography. They're already sedating you very, very effectively right now, ML. But the idea is that, well, these dangerous guys that are on these forums, it's like, I looked at some of these other studies and I'm saying they are really kind of barking up the wrong tree, or they're trying to inflate numbers that they think, like, actually I shouldn't say that. They're not inflating numbers, but they want you to believe that those numbers are like significant. Like, these are the members of this forum. These are the average demographics of these guys. They follow YouTube channels that have 130,000 subs. What? There's fishing channels with more than that. But I think that the idea really behind most of this stuff is this sort of midterm election year of the woman. Feed them fear, sell them security. Don't worry, ladies. The NSA, the Secret Service, well, in this case, the Secret Service is on the job. And I think that this is kind of sets a dangerous precedent, because then you're going to have these conversations with people who think that you're just pulling numbers out of your ass, who are like, essentially, like, when I get upset, sorry, and sometimes I get a little worked up, but when I get all kind of pissed off about inaccuracy, and you guys heard me talk about this before, if you're going to be a representative of the red pill in any capacity, at least strive for some kind of accuracy. At the very least, know where the research that you're quoting, know the name, the year, where it came from. That would be at least a step in the right direction. Because what will happen is you will have people who, I said in the past, are confidently ignorant of something they got no business talking about in the first place, that other people will see and they'll go, oh my gosh, this guy must be legit. No, it's bullshit, because these guys simply don't have any history to understand that. Again, I was writing about Elliot Rodger back in 2014. I remembered the day it happened. Hell, Sam Bada remembers the day it happened, because he texted me and said, hey, did you just hear what happened in Santa Barbara? We were there 3,000 years ago, Gandalf. We were there. We saw it. Wait, here we go.
I was there 3,000 years ago.
I was there 3,000 years ago. Old man Rolo just yelling at the clouds again. No, man. So when I see stuff like this, so you got two in 8 years, and here we are 12 years now. Okay, so you got 2 in 12 years, maybe 3 in 12 years. And now you got the guy who is writing a manifesto or something about, oh, thank you very much for that. Writing some sort of map. If you think that is like the 70th, what's funny to me is, like, I will quote a guy, like, you probably don't know who Thomas Ball is. Thomas Ball was a guy who set himself on fire in front of I want to say it was a Virginia courthouse, because he just got dragged through the divorce machine and the child support machine, and the just essentially it's where if you've read, I think it was my second book, I I did an essay, and that ended up as a chapter in preventive. I think it was preventive medicine. It was an essay called "The Second Set of Books," and I took that. By the way, I lifted that title from Thomas Ball because he left 100,000-page manifesto that basically boils down to people don't play by the same set of rules. There's the set of rules that we think everyone else in society or everyone else, in, whether it's in personal or political or religious or whatever, there's the first set of books that everybody believes that this is the rule set that everybody is playing by. And then he said there's a second set of books that are the actual rules. This is actually what's going on there. Thank you very much. The second set of books. Sam, do me a favor and put that in the chat so people can go check that out if they want to. But nobody talked. This guy had a manifesto. He didn't just set himself on fire. He didn't take anybody with him. He just set himself on fire like that monk in Vietnam, right? Self-immolation to make a point. I mean, he was going to kill himself anyway. Well, what prompted him to do that? Nobody's going to say anything about that.